Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
At the Boise Art Museum right now, there are almost 1,000 hand-painted plates on display. The blue and white dishes show detailed illustrations of comfort foods like spaghetti and pancakes and hamburgers, the last meals of death row inmates.
You have to wonder what kind of life they lived for that to be the case.
I'm Julie Luqueta. Find my report and pictures of the Last Supper exhibit at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. More Idaho Matters right now. Today we're talking about a new book, My Fair Señor. It follows two former college sweethearts, where one's trying to break out of his family's taco empire, and she's a rising star in the world of tequila and mezcal. And it's fair to say their reunion is anything but smooth. Author Alana Quintana Alverson is joining us now to chat more. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
So what inspired your new book? Was there a moment or idea that sparked the book?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was the third in a series. And I already had the character Jaime, who is the youngest brother, and he's a bit of a playboy. And I was trying to think of an idea for the book, and I was parked outside a restaurant, and some huge tequila truck pulled up in front of me, and it was George Clooney and Randy Gerber's truck, and they were riding through an agave farm on motorcycles, and I couldn't get out, and my car was locked in. And I just thought, that's it. This is a guy, and he's being hired to kind of do a stereotypical, very good-looking Mexican man to represent this tequila, and then he feels entitled that he should start his own line, which is completely ridiculous because he knows nothing about tequila. So it all stemmed from being trapped behind a tequila truck.
Okay, so speaking of the world of tequila and mezcal, I mean, that's very specific. So what kind of research went into creating Alma's profession? Because she's got some pretty big certifications and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I was a casual drinker of tequila, usually in a very fruity margarita, and I really knew nothing about it. So I was kind of clueless like Jaime. And I did some research. I did some master tequila tastings with tequiladores. I looked everywhere for a female tequiladora, and it was very hard to find. And so I went to different events where we were sampling different tequilas and learning about the process. And it's absolutely fascinating. And I didn't even know, I had heard of mezcal, but I didn't know the difference between tequila and mezcal and the way it's made and the artisans. And so I did some pretty deep research, and I find it absolutely fascinating now. And now I can tell the difference and, how to drink it. And it's just such a very in-depth world that I really had no idea about.
So what's interesting to me, you mentioned that you went to all of these events trying to find, females in this profession. And what struck me in the book is that she's very accomplished, but this is even in real life, a male-dominated industry. So when you started the research for this, did you know that this would kind of be Alma's path with this male-dominated industry? And what do you want readers to know and understand really about her in regards to being in an industry like that?
Yeah, I really always want to put my female characters in, very positive lights and doing things that are kind of not, I would say, accepted or, typical. And so I thought it was fascinating that she got into it, and she, lived in Marin County where I grew up. And so she's near her, and they went to, she and Jaime went to school at Sonoma State. So I had her, in proximity to, what such a great wine country. But from there to get into tequila and to really try to um, break into this male dominated industry and thrive. And so one of the things I did, which, you'll see some criticisms for, people say, oh, she dresses very sexy. And I really
Uh-huh.
wanted her to be very empowered. And though she's in a male dominated industry, I always think of Working Girl. I actually just saw the Working Girl musical at La Jolla Playhouse where she's, wears a dress, so I just
Uh-huh.
thought it would be very cool for her to be feminine, yet, thrive in a male dominated industry.
The book also touches on identity, but heritage and family legacy. How did those themes really start to shape the story as you were writing it?
Yeah, so it's a series, and so one of the things that I've had is, initially kind of the concept was it was Crazy Rich Mexicans, and so Jaime and his brothers,
Mm,
though they're Mexican, they're very rich, they're very privileged, and they're a bit detached from kind of the struggles of other people in their community, and so. And then I also kind of wanted to talk about Alma and identity and her growing up in a poor Mexican community, the Canal in Marin County, but then thriving in and so, all my books are about identity. This one, I really wanted to talk about cultural appropriation, different things of kind of like what it means to be Mexican. I am half Mexican. My mom is Mexican, and so it's an identity, that I've definitely tried to find my path at.
So, can we go back to something you mentioned about how you got the idea for the book? And this was seeing, this celebrity tequila truck, right? Um,
Right.
because you tackle that in the book. I mean, these celebrity-owned tequila brands. So,
Right.
let's talk about that. What was it that made you decide, you know what, I'm going to actually, yes, it inspired the story, but that you were actually going to kind of dig into this because kind of what messages were you maybe hoping to send about, really authenticity, right? And not just in, the tequila industry, but authenticity overall.
Yeah, absolutely. What a wonderful question. So, I mean, it was, I had seen the George Clooney one, and then I had also seen Mark Wahlberg had one, and he came to San Diego to debut it and did something in a Mexican community around here. And then I saw Kendall Jenner's, and it was just kind of like boom, boom, boom. And I
Mhm.
just felt kind of overwhelmed. And the thing is, I believe in free enterprise, and anyone, can do whatever they want. But like, I just was like, do you really know anything about tequila? And I kind of try to do that with Jaime because Jaime, just because he's Mexican, he also doesn't just be like, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to start a tequila company, which is kind of his thing. Whereas I really felt that Alma had done the work and learned a lot about it and really appreciated the culture. So I was really trying to make the point of, that's fine to do something, but respect where it comes from and,
Mm.
really try to be authentic with it and do it from kind of a good place versus just profit. Obviously, people want to make profit, but like, do these people really know a lot about tequila and the farmers and all the things that it does to make it? I did not, I didn't know anything about it.
Mm. Well, and also to, as you said, right? I think with Alma to respect her knowledge and all of the work that she did instead of like swooping in and think like, well, I have the money, I can open a tequila brand.
Right, exactly. And so I really wanted, that she didn't have the money and she worked for it and everything she did. And then he just thinks he can throw money at it, hire her without, any kind of regard for all the hours and work that she has done doing it. So I wanted to, show that even through him, even though he is Mexican, that he also felt very, kind of entitled
Mhm.
to this just because he was rich.
Well, and then you also show a whole other side of this, and that's the farmers and the producers, right? Was that something you had planned on writing into the book, or did that happen as you started doing research and learning more about tequila and mezcal? I mean, why was it important to really spotlight that side of that industry?
Again, great question. I absolutely did not plan on writing it because again, I was Jaime. I was a tequila moron. I knew nothing about it. And then once I learned about tequila and I went to the tasting, so my thought was just to talk about the different things of tequila. So I went to the tastings, I learned a lot about it. And then the tequila door at this tasting told, these stories of all these farmers. I'm like, oh no, now, now this is so interesting. I have to see that. So then I was like, oh no, I mean, if I had my choice, I would have actually gone to Guadalajara and done some research in person. But, I watched a documentary, and I watched all these things, and it was so interesting. And again, something I absolutely knew nothing about. So never once crossed my mind to do that until
Mm.
I learned about the process.
So, what are you hoping that readers take away from this latest book?
Um, well, it's a love story to my hometown,
Yeah.
Marin County, California. So I wanted that. I did want them to have kind of a deeper appreciation of tequila, and the process that goes into it. People just drink it and they don't think, myself included. And
Mhm.
then I also really wanted people to kind of just think, when you are making a consumer choice of buying tequila, maybe go with a brand that, I learned all this stuff about, some brands, and we don't use additives, and we do all this stuff. And when you start tasting it and how clean it tastes, so I kind of wanted people to think that, just because, a celebrity is very good looking and has a tequila line, that might not be the best tequila. So all that.
So, as you mentioned, this is the third in a series. So, has the series wrapped up? Will there be another one in the series? What's next for you?
So I would love to write more in the series, but I'm not contracted for more. Though the first one has been optioned, and I finished the screenplay for it. So
Oh,
I'm hoping that
wow.
if Ramon and Julieta gets made into a movie, then of course I'll be able to write more in the series. And of course I have 3 more planned. So that's my dream. But I'm not able to do that unless that happens. I'm currently on submission for some amazing, weird, dark romance, and then I have a thriller, and I have a historical middle grade fiction. So I'm always writing. That was my 32nd book, and so
Oh my
I hit the
gosh.
USA. Yeah, it's crazy, and I hit the USA Today bestseller list with My Fair Señor, which is the first time
Ah,
I've hit. And so what I always want to tell all the readers is, what they say, what's your key to success? And it's, you don't give up, because this is my 32nd book, and I've had some books that nobody bought. Book number 18, I don't know what that is. So you just keep going, and I'll never stop writing, and I love telling stories.
and what was it like to have, as you said, you're just finishing up the screenplay for the first in this series. I mean, what's that experience been like?
Oh, it was insane. So I have no, again, like the tequila knowledge, I do not know how to write a screenplay. I know absolutely nothing. So it had been optioned earlier. Ramon had been optioned when the book sold as a TV show, and I was not allowed to write it. And they hired this amazing person to write it, Dylan Rodriguez, who was the showrunner of Queen of the South. But then and we had a deal with Netflix, and then that deal fell apart during the writer's strike. And so then
Mm,
I got the rights back, and I have a good friend, Nick Gonzalez, who's an actor. He's been on The Good Doctor, and we went to Stanford together. And so he knew some producers, and they were like, "Why don't you write it?" And we were like, "We don't know what we're doing." I mean, I'm a novelist, and he was an English major, but so we just, again, like, hi May, we had no clue what we were doing, so we just started learning how to write, and we bought Final Draft, which is the software to do it, and we wrote a screenplay and went back and forth and back and forth, and we spent all year on it, and it's being read by some top directors in Hollywood right now. And it's an absolutely exhilarating experience. It's so hard, because what you do is you take your book and you strip it down to the dialogue. And I never knew
oh,
how
wow.
awful some of it, right? Because you can't describe things, right? So you just have this book of dialogue, and then you have
Yeah.
to fix it. And so it's very humbling. I was like, oh, this is not good. Definitely made me a stronger writer. Very difficult. And I'm glad I did it, but it was painful.
Well, I have to tell you, it has been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'd love to come back anytime. And thank you again.
Absolutely. We've been speaking with author Alana Quintana Albertson about her latest novel, My Fair Señor. It is out now. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
How does AI even work? Where does creativity come from? What's the secret to living longer? TED Radio Hour explores the biggest questions with some of the world's greatest thinkers. They will surprise, challenge, and even change you. Listen to NPR's TED Radio Hour wherever you get your podcasts.